This is Christiana from the Historical Museum at Fort Missoula. With me here is my friend Emily, our AmeriCorps leader. And for our Lunch and Learn today, we decided that we were going to do something a little lighter and something that might be fun to work on with kids. I have a cheat sheet here because I was at the front desk and haven't learned everything I need to know. So a little winging it here, but Emily is our current marble expert. So what we're doing today is we're talking about marbles. If you are joining us, just give us a holler so we know that you're there, and let us know if you've ever played marbles before. If you have a favorite marble perhaps to this day, that'd be cool to know about. So marbles are interesting because they, well, first of all, if you don't know what I'm talking about these guys. There's a little one and a big one, and Emily will tell us the terms for those in a little bit. But marbles are pretty cool because people have used marbles as toys for thousands of years. We find them in places like Pompeii and Egypt, but also they're something that a lot of our parents and grandparents have grown up playing. They can be made of glass, like the ones that we have here today, or they could be something as simple as rounded stones from a river, or you can make them out of clay. When I was an archaeologist in Scotland, we found a lot of things that looked like marbles on some of our sites from the 1840s, but they were actually pop stoppers from early carbonized soda pop bottles, which is pretty neat. Which then, you'd break the bottle if you were a kiddo in that time, and then you would you would use them for marbles too. So, Emily, can you tell us a little bit about terminology?
Yeah. So. If you are someone who plays marbles, you are called a mibster.
A mibster.
A mibster. And so then we have our larger marbles, which are about this size compared to the smaller ones. The larger marbles are called your shooters. So this is the one that in a game of marbles you would use to knock the other smaller marbles, which are called ducks, out of the way and out of the circle. Now you could play for points, which is what a lot of people do, or if you're really into marbles, you play for keeps. And any marble that you knock out of the ring from your opponent, you get to keep. So depends on how many marbles you're trying to get.
And how ruthless you're feeling.
Exactly. The kid with the most marbles on the playground is not one to tussle with. And so then you also have different names for different colors of marbles. So if your marble is yellow and black, it's called a bumblebee.
Makes sense.
Naturally. And then you also have your all blue ones. So if this one was more solidly blue, it'd be called a jasper.
Oh.
And then you also have, let's see, there's another one that I really liked. The glass marbles with lots of color in them. So ones that are like this, but you have multiple colors in them, but you still have kind of a clear coat through them all. Those are called onion skins because you have the layers of different colors swirled around inside. So those were some fun names as well.
That's another cool one that we've got in our little box of marbles there.
And then you've also got terminology that you use while playing the game. So when you're getting ready to knuckle down, that means you're getting ready to shoot because you have at least one knuckle on the ground at a time while you're shooting. And then you can also fudge, which is crossing the line while you're shooting. So you have to shoot from behind the line of the circle on your first turn. And then there's another really good one. So if you are lined up for a shot that you know you're going to make with your shooter, then that person's marble is called a dead duck because there's no way that marble is going to survive the shot.
And you might have said this before, we call like the smaller marbles
The smaller
ducks.
ones are the ducks, and then the bigger ones are the shooters. So yeah, that's just some
marble terminology to get used to. And so one of the things, if you've got kiddos at home or if you just like making things to play with, what we've got here at the Homestead cabin where we're hanging out today is we've got this Dixie Queen plug cut. I know that's going to show up backwards in your screen, But this was actually an old tobacco container, but it looks kind of like a picnic basket. So you might imagine that kiddos would have kept them some toys in there, or you might have even brought your lunch to school in one of these back in the old days. Seems a little bit funny now to think about anything with tobacco on it being something that a kid could take to school. But we've got our little marble box here, and through the years with our history campers, we've made some clay marbles, and we're gonna do a little bit of that today. So that might be an easy project for you to do if you've got kiddos at home and you wanna learn some traditional games. We'll put some links underneath this video so that you can find instructions for playing marbles and some videos. I can't say for sure that I'm gonna be an excellent marble demonstrator, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So if you do have little kiddos at home, when you make your marbles, you might want to leave them to dry a little bit. What we've got with us today is just some air dry clay that I got from Walmart, and we're going to make some marbles with that. And then while they're drying, we might paint some of these guys. And then finally we'll give it a shot, and I'm going to challenge Emily to a game of marbles. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I don't think it looks good for me, but we'll see. But if you're making these marbles at home, what we've done in the past is we take, with our history campers, we'll take a plate and then put their name on it somewhere so that when they paint their marbles or their marbles are drying, they have a place to put it. Because we all know if you've got more than one kid around or more than one very enthusiastic adult around, you might get your marbles mixed up. And we don't want that to happen. So
Don't want to lose your marbles.
Don't want to lose your marbles. And do we think that that terminology comes from marble playing? Or?
Yeah, so it actually made a point in some of the research I was doing that it comes from when you would play for keeps and you would go crazy because you were losing all of your marbles to whoever you were playing.
And that would be pretty frustrating, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, my mom gave me a box of marbles last time I was home, and I don't know where it is. So sorry, Mom. I've currently lost your marbles, but I will find them before History Camp. Quick plug for History Camp. I know a lot of folks in the community have been wondering, what we're doing as far as programming at the fort. And we have decided to do our History Camp at the end of July with some special COVID aware precautions, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you, so that we can keep everybody safe and clean and all that stuff. So lots of hand washing, temperature checks, that sort of thing. If you do want to sign up for History Camp, you can find that information on the Fort Missoula Museum website under the Summer Camps tab, or you can Facebook me, I'm Christiana, or send me an email and I can get you the information for that. So we do fun things like make marbles, but we also go on some field trips around Missoula to see some historic sites, and we do a lot of cool activities out here on the ground. So it's for ages 8 to 13, and we're limiting the camp size to 8 this year, so we've already got 3 enrolled. So if you are interested, get your kiddos signed up quick, and that's the second to the last week in July, I believe, but that you can find that info on our website. So now, let's make us some marbles. So we've got some example marbles, we've got a shooter, and we've got our ducks. So we're just gonna grab a chunk of clay here, and I'm gonna take my plate so that Emily doesn't steal my marbles. And, well, she'll probably steal them legitimately when we play, but we'll see. So when you were doing your research, Emily, did you notice if there's more than one kind of game for playing marbles,
yes,
right?
There's more than one game for marbles. However, the most popular game and the game that is used for the marbles national tournament in New Jersey every year, I believe is called Ringers.
Yeah, I think Ringers.
Yes,
that
Ringers.
sounds familiar.
And so that's the most popular game. It's definitely the one where you can get kind of the most ruthless in terms of knocking out your opponent's marble. And that's the one we're going to be playing later. But I think for the most part, Ringers kind of developed from just having the idea to knock your opponent's marbles out of a ring. So I think it's just kind of a culmination of different variants of the game.
But I'm sure, if you wanted to get super into marbles, there's probably
there's
different kinds of games.
Tons of different games.
And what's nice is you just need basically a flat surface and a set of marbles. Are there? Did you notice if there are any requirements? Like if you're playing Ringers, how many ducks you need?
So each player is gonna have 13 ducks, and then you line them up in an X in the middle of your circle. And the circles are rather large. They're probably about maybe 8 feet in diameter.
Wow.
And you set them up in an X, and they even have like these pre-made slots, almost like you're lining up for pool.
To rack it,
Yeah,
basically?
yeah, a rack for your X. And then they will, one person shoot, knuckles down, uses their shooter, and tries to knock out the ducks, and you can, that player's turn lasts until their shooter leaves the circle.
Okay.
And then the next player gets to go, and then then you get all the marbles out of the circle, and then the first person to 50 wins. So if I knock all 13 of yours out, we re-rack, and that's 13 points for me, and then we play until whoever reaches 50.
And so it's basically 1 point per marble. That makes sense. That's easy. That's some pretty easy math to figure out there. But if you're working with kiddos who are learning their addition skills, that could be a nice way to do it. Like keep a little tally mark. And that's another skill I know little kiddos are learning in their math. So that's a good option. So, and I suppose you could do this with Play-Doh if you didn't mind letting it dry, but it would might be a little bit lighter, although this modeling clay is pretty light. Just feel the difference. Yeah, the real marbles are definitely heavier than the clay ones we have, but I think they'll serve the same purpose for our stuff. All right, so I've got my little plate of marbles here. We said we needed 13 ducks?
13 ducks.
Okay. So 13 ducks and 1 shooter, although I made 2 shooters just in case. And if you've ever played with clay or Play-Doh, then you know. Just like Emily was doing, you just roll it in your hands to make a little ball. And I'm going to paint a couple of my dry ones here just for fun. We'll see if we have 13 marbles each out of our little thing.
Yeah,
we got
I was
some
wondering
kind of
that
bigger
earlier.
ducks. Well, if I didn't lose my mom's marbles, we'd be fine. But one thing, if Cheryl Hughes is out there, she'll remember that my paint markers are permanent here. So if she brought her grandchild one time, and we ended up getting some permanent paint all over things. So definitely keep an eye on your paint. If you're working with little kiddos, make sure that you're picking something that is washable and not, of course, toxic. So these paint markers are permanent. So if you're working with bigger kiddos, you could probably do that if you've got, a nice clean space or cleanable space. Otherwise, we've got our just regular kind of plain acrylic paint and some metallic stuff. So basically, whatever makes you happy. And one thing I think I'm going to do, we were talking about this earlier, is just putting some paint on our little palettes here and rolling them around. I think that's how I'm going to work on one of mine here. I suppose you could probably paint the white ones before they completely dry, but I'm just going to paint some of the brown ones since they're in here. See if it works. We'll just kind of roll it around. Oh, look at that, I got stuck. So this is art in action right here. Don't
Live
tell
action.
anybody that happened.
Live action.
We've got some metallic on our picnic table thing here. As you can see, this isn't the first time we've painted on this on this particular table. And for those of you guys who aren't in Missoula and aren't familiar with the fort, we're sitting in the Hayes Homestead cabin right now, which is was donated by or originally owned by the Hayes family in Potomac. We've got it set up to look like a homestead cabin from the early 1900s, but it was originally housing for loggers that lived up and worked with Mr. Hayes. The museum is open to the public now, so if you were missing us and you're needing some place to explore, we do have extra hand sanitizer all over the grounds, and it's a good place to explore with social distancing. So you don't have to worry about, with 32 acres, you can kind of spread out that way. So I've been seeing families out and about, which has been nice. I hear some families out there now. We might get visitors inadvertently, but that's okay. Uh-oh, Emily, I'm making a mess.
Uh-oh.
You have to hose me down before we get inside.
It was bound to happen.
Yeah. Got some paint on my fingers there. Maybe I'll make some fingerprints on this one here.
There you go. We'll know which ones are yours when I win.
I know. So that was that was my thought too. It's like, I wonder how when you play, like, do you just memorize all 13 of your marbles? You just know
Yeah.
that these marbles are mine. I suppose if you're not buying them in the same set, and if you earned them from, you know, taking people playing for
people
keeps,
down, yeah.
then you probably would remember what it was that you were playing with. All right, so I'm gonna build our ring over on the floor over there, and so you can watch Emily and her artistry over there. And in the meantime, I don't think we have any comments. I haven't used Facebook Live that much on my phone. So, but if anybody has any questions about marbles or the Homestead cabin or about programming this summer, feel free to make a little comment questions there. And if we don't get to it today or right now, we'll get to it after we're done with the Facebook Live. But in the meantime, enjoy Emily's concentration. I will build us a circle.
Marbles are serious business.
Especially when you're designing them.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get an 8-foot diameter one, but that's okay. We're probably gonna lose one underneath the stove too.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, while I was researching for this, I saw a documentary about the kids who play in the national tournament every year
Oh yeah?
in New Jersey, and it looked quite intense, which I, you know, for something I had not heard was a thing, was very impressed.
Yeah.
And they were interviewing one of the kids that the documentary was about, and he was like, yeah, you know, he looked maybe 12 years old. He said, a lot of kids my age don't say I'm going to go and practice marbles, but I do it quite often.
Yeah, I suppose you could practice without other kiddos around too. Just getting your aim down and stuff.
Yeah. They were talking to a guy who I guess owns like a marble kiosk or a shop or something out near where they play, because it looked like they were playing on the Jersey Shore.
Uh-huh.
And I think maybe he has a stand or a shop that's out there. And
Huh.
he said they get kids all the time coming in looking for their new marbles.
Well, and I know there was an organization called Full Circle Counseling down in Stevensville, and they would go to the dairy has a picnic every summer, and so they had a marble booth. And so I know there's a lot of kiddos from the Bitterroot that definitely have a little stash of marbles somewhere. So if you are one of those folks who's had kiddos bring marbles home from the dairy picnic in Stevensville, like, maybe it's time to bust those out again. So if you're not painting your marbles, it's not a particularly messy
No.
game. I imagine it could get pretty raucous.
Yeah.
But you know, that's a nice thing. You can make a little circle outside if you have a deck or a patio, or if you go to the park and there's a flat surface, you could bring some chalk. I know lots of people like to color with sidewalk chalk, so that could be an option. That one gonna be polka dotted?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Polka dot shooter.
I remember reading in your notes there that there are some that have little figures on the inside of
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be interesting. Maybe we could do a follow-up where we look to see what kinds of marbles we have in the museum collection, because I haven't looked at that
That
yet.
would be cool, yeah.
So stay tuned for that, guys. We'll make sure we add a little separate video. We'll talk to Ted and Ann and see if they can point us in the right direction. It'd be kind of fun to see. But yeah, especially I was seeing that they sometimes had Santa Claus in the middle.
Yeah, there was even one, there was a picture, and I couldn't get the picture to copy into the notes, but there was one with a Teddy Roosevelt
Oh, that's cool.
inside, so I thought that was funny.
Nice.
That, you know, along with baseball cards, anybody could be in a marble.
Fun fact about Missoula and Teddy Roosevelt, he gave a speech on Broadway and Higgins at the Broadway building. I think that's, no, the Montana building, where the Dana Gallery is. And there's some pictures of him. It was like when he was starting his campaign for his third term as president.
Oh, cool.
And his campaign manager was Joseph Dixon, so that's why it kicked off here. So a little bit of Montana fun fact there. So I think while we let our beautifully painted, some more beautifully than others, marbles dry, we can go split up the marbles that we do have, and you can teach me how to shoot a marble. Hopefully all
I'll learn how to shoot
yeah,
a
we're
marble.
gonna learn. Okay, so hopefully we don't make everybody dizzy because we're gonna pick up the camera and move it over here. Let's see here. Doo-doo-doo-doo. All right, extreme close up of the floor. All right, so we have our box of marbles here. I'm not sure that we're gonna end up with 13 ducks each, but let's see how many we have, and then we can divvy them up.
Yeah.
That's a shooter. Maybe throw up my guys too.
And we can always see who can knock the most out too.
That's true.
Ooh, that one's a real small duck.
Yeah. Oh, I think this one's my favorite. Like that.
Ooh, that one's a
I
cool one.
wonder if I can get this close enough. It might not focus properly for you guys here, but there's this really pretty blue and brown swirly one. I like that one.
Alright, I think we got all the similar size ones.
6, 8, 10, 12, 18, 20, 22. We have 24. If we had 2
close enough.
more, but that's okay. We can just split 12 and 12.
Yep.
Okay. I can count. I don't think I counted properly. What do we need to put them in? An X?
An X, yep.
In the middle?
In the middle.
Okay, we're doing an X in the middle.
And I think we could probably use less than that even because they're going to want to be spaced out a little bit.
Oh, okay. Probably since I didn't make an 8, I did like a 4-foot one. So maybe we can start with 6?
Yeah, let's start with 6. And then if you want, I can take the blue ones as mine. That way we can keep track, and then yours can be all the other ones.
She's so smart. That's why we have AmeriCorps. they know.
And then you can pick your 6.
Okay. We'll do. It doesn't look like yours.
No.
1, 2, 3.
I think we just
1,
have the
2,
6 blue ones. So.
Okay.
Alright, cool.
That's not my favorite one. We'll trade you for you. Okay.
And then we'll do something like this.
Any other marble experts out there? Anybody?
Any mibsters?
Any mibsters?
We got a couple of mibsters in training.
Yep. We're junior mibsters.
Yeah. There we go.
And then I should do mine.
And then use, yep, we'll go the other way to make the X.
So you may notice we have a concrete floor in the Homestead cabin, but it would have been a dirt floor originally. It's just easier. It's helpful for the historic integrity of the building to have a concrete floor. Now, how do we sit, like, where do you start? Do you know?
So, I saw that the national tournament players,
Yeah.
you sit behind the line for your first shot,
Okay.
but I think, given how small our circle is for all of our shots, and then you have to shoot from behind the line,
Okay.
and then, but you can put your hand out here for balance.
For balance, that makes sense. And does it matter where you start
No,
in the
doesn't
circle?
matter where you are on the circle.
Okay. Put one on this side then. And then how do you set up your hand?
So, knuckling down, you want to make sure you have your front knuckle on the ground. You need at least one knuckle at all times.
Okay.
So it's kind of like pool with the angles of your
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
of your wrist. and where your palm is, but you always have to have your front knuckle down.
Okay.
And then that's what it looked like. So it kind of looks like this is what it looked like. I was, you know, as someone without a coach, this is what their objective looked like.
Okay. So, I'll be the first shooter here, even though it's not going to work very well for me. Okay, so I'm behind the line, and I just flick it towards there.
Yep, and then you want to try to knock out my 6. And then, but you want to keep your shooter in the circle.
And I don't want to knock mine out.
Correct.
That's going to be hard. Okay. Oh! Well, I got one of yours.
So you got a point, but now it gets to go to me.
Oh!
Since yours left the
right,
circle.
but if I had managed to keep it in the circle, I could have gone again, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So let's see here. Talked a big game. Nope. No!
Uh-oh. Did it end up in the...
Lost to the Homestead cabin.
Okay, so I'm gonna give it a shot. Oh!
Where did it go?
You might have to start with a new shooter.
No!
So, if anybody is watching this video, feel free to chime in with other old-fashioned games that you enjoy. Did you play Jacks growing up? That's another one that we know about.
Oh.
I'm winning so far. All right, here we go. Knuckles down. Oh, yes!
Okay, I can't keep losing the shooters. This is not cool. All right, you know.
Well, we'll do a couple more shots because clearly I'm gonna win.
And I'm gonna lose all of the marbles, not just mine.
I believe in you.
I don't. Nope.
Okay.
Keep my eye on it.
Oh!
Oh, very good.
If I could just keep it in the circle, but if we had a full 8-foot circle, it might be better.
Alright. I didn't lose this one. Alright, let's see. Oh my god!
Oh, she got one of hers. That one's a dud. Do you feel like you want to go again?
I get one more.
Redeem
One
yourself?
more.
She's gonna redeem
I'm
herself.
gonna get one.
She's gonna get them all in one shot.
You know, I'm not good at pool, so this really makes sense. This really checks out.
Here we go.
Wow!
She got.
At this point, it's just self-sabotage. I think we should quit.
All right, friends. Thank you for joining me and Emily over here. I clearly was the ringer, right? That's
good.
another thing. So
Yeah.
I managed to get some out there. So she didn't beat me up. And we'll keep practicing so that when history camp comes around, we'll actually have some skills.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I hope you guys run out to Walmart next time you're on a grocery run and grab some of that modeling clay. It's air dry. You can make your own, make them fancy, make some bumblebees, and what were the other ones that were fun?
Some jaspers.
Some jaspers.
Some onion skins.
Some onion skins. Or, you know, check out your local toy store. Maybe, I think it's the Imagination Station that's downtown off of Higgins. I bet they've got marbles. And, you know, give us a holler if there's any other sort of old-fashioned games or traditions that you want to know more about. We can do a lunch and learn about that. We're going to switch our lunch and learns to Tuesdays starting next week just because our schedules are changing a little bit. But you can always watch these afterwards too. So from me and Emily and the rest of the fort, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.